The way I'll conduct the public hearing tonight is to first invite testimony in support of the proposed rezone, then invite testimony in opposition or general testimony if there's requirement for rebuttal or response from those who may include our county commissioner who's in attendance tonight. We would certainly offer that as well. So what we have you do is state your name and address for our record. We ask that you not repeat what's been said before you, although if you agree with what someone else has said, please say so. We ask that you be brief and concise in your remarks as possible. With that, I'll open the public hearing and first invite testimony in support of the proposed rezone.
I'm Dave McGraw, Latah County Commissioner, Chair of the Board, 102 East A, Troy, Idaho. I would encourage you to support our rezone recommendation here. As we've said all along, we're just trying to be good neighbors and trying to clean the neighborhood up and make it look as good as we can. When previous commissioners bought that property, it had turned into a weed patch and just kind of turned into a mess. We went in and cleaned it up. True, there is a few trailers on there, but they are incidental to government business and whatnot. So I guess we're just trying to keep the place clean and get it cleaned up and make it look nice, to be good neighbors to our friendly neighbors here around us. So, and I will look forward to answering questions at a later time.
Or if you're willing to field them, or now. Would council members, anybody questions for Commissioner McGraw? Okay. Oh, Walter.
Commissioner, was the idea to do this brought forward by the county or proposed by the city? I think I read two different places, two different things.
The idea
not that it really matters, but just to clarify it.
Madam Mayor, well, Commissioner Steed and the rest of the council, the idea to clean the lot up was our idea. The idea to get it rezoned, I believe, was the city's.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McGraw. Other testimony in support of the proposed rezone? Is there testimony in opposition or general testimony?
Hello, David Schlater, 509 South Polk Street, and my property is adjacent to the rezoning property. I guess I just have some concerns over the possibility of general business creep into the residential area, and I would say that the county courthouse folks have been good neighbors. They did help to build a fence on the property line after they took down the houses and the trees and the cover there. So they did go half and half on a fence, so that was appreciated. I'm not sure a rezone is necessary for them to continue to be good neighbors and to clean up the lot. And I guess I would think that another consideration would be to give them a variance to do what they want to do on the lot, but not to have the ability to build a large structure on the lot unless there was a lot more public hearing. So that would be my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schlater. Are you willing to field questions if the council has any? Anyone? Okay. Thank you.
If I may, and I've got the advantage of having the aerial photograph in front of me, but you live there, so you should know. Your home faces South Polk,
right,
and is in a north-south rectangular lot.
It is.
And that's a single-family residence?
It is.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Sure. Yeah. Point in the middle. Right. So, my property is right here. So it abuts.
Okay, I was thinking a different one then. So
okay,
that's yours.
That's a rental there, rental property there, but mine is right here.
Oh, okay.
So the fence that came in was put right here because it was just like a chain link type fence that you could see right through. So we put a wood fence in there, and so that was helpful in cutting out some of the light and the noise and the traffic once the houses were gone and the trees and shrubs and things were removed. So.
Okay, well, I'm glad I asked because I had the wrong property in mind.
Thank you. Is there other testimony either in opposition or general testimony?
Hello, my My name is Jonathan Lomber, and I live at 419 South Polk Street,
Mr. Lomber, could you spell your last name for our record, please?
Lomber.
Thank you.
So, sorry, property is this one here. Sorry, where'd it go?
Let's see.
Next door to Mr. Slater or the next one?
Next one over, sorry. I'm not,
That one?
There we are.
There.
I'm not doing anything. Anyway, I'm sorry. My main comment is the county has no plans to develop this property at this time. So the request to rezone is to rezone a property in a vacant lot with no plans to be developed. So I don't see a need for the rezone to go through if there's no plans for the property. It can stay as zoned, and if at a later date they decide to move forward, I'd still prefer a conditional use permit to be granted for them to have the parking lot there. I think rezoning it just because the property next to it is general business, I'm not sure if that's appropriate. What restricts the property next door to that to say, I want to rezone because the property next to me is rezoned general business, and then David can change and it can just creep up the block. If there was plans for the property, I could see that being adequate. But at this point, they're not going to use it as a parking lot. It's just going to stay as a gravel vacant lot with some trailers on it. That's my main concern. I'd like to see the neighborhood stay as a neighborhood for conservation and have a tighter zoning to kind of restrict what potentially could happen in the future. Who knows what that could be also. So I think that's everything. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Thank you. Council, any questions? Okay, thank you. Is there other testimony, either in opposition or general testimony? Walter?
Could I ask a question of Mike regarding the second gentleman's comments at this time, or would you like to close the public hearing
I
first?
think we'll close the public hearing unless you think it requires additional public testimony in response. Your
I don't
question?
know whether it would or not. It's got to do with the statement made by the second gentleman.
Okay. Mr. City Attorney, do you have any heartburn over not closing the hearing before we hear back from staff?
No, if he's going to be specifically.
Very good. Okay. Mike, please. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We've heard from Commissioner McGraw that the city apparently felt that this was the right thing to do. One of the persons in opposition said that there was no plan at this time, and therefore what I heard was there was no need to rezone. Can you speak to that? Do y'all have a comment to that, to his remarks?
Well, the applicant, the county would have to rezone the property in order to develop a parking lot on it without going through a special use permit. And so if it was to remain within the R4 designation, they could go through a special use permit in order to achieve that. But right now, the proposal before you today would be to rezone the property general business, and they wouldn't be able to develop it as a parking lot until such time that the rezone ordinance was approved.
But if I
There, if I might.
Sure, Bill?
If I might just be able to respond to the question. This matter came up, a little over a year ago. We received a complaint of tracking of dirt upon 6th Street. We went out and observed that the county was grading the site, so they were removing some soil, exporting off the site, and brought in gravel to grade it out. We made contact with the county to make sure that they were aware the property was still zoned as residential. We did not know what their intentions or plans were for use or development of the property, and made them aware that they would need, before they could expand their use upon the property, really even kind of including the parking of the trailers or any type of expanded use, that they would need to either obtain a special use permit for that activity or they would need to rezone the property. They chose to rezone the property, and so they turned in the application that's before you this evening. If they wish to do nothing with the property and not have any use, no expansion of the courthouse use upon the property, then there would be no requirement for them to rezone the property today. But the general description we received from their staff was that there was going to be some parking of trailers, maybe some vehicles for those that are not used on a daily basis, so more long-term storage. And then there was some discussion of a potential storage building that they wanted to be able to have on the property. And so before they could do any of those activities, they would either have to rezone the property or obtain a special use permit. So those were the two options that were provided to the county, and this is what they chose to pursue.
So they do have a plan, however minimal.
I don't think it's very well defined today, correct. But they began the expansion of the use. There were a couple times that there were 20 vehicles over there during, I think, probably a jury selection date. So people were starting to utilize it. So we were seeing this use occur prior to getting the use, approved or authorized either through a special use permit or through a rezone.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Wayne?
Mike, you may or may not have the answer to this question, but I think it's interesting if we note that all of this, all along South Polk, it's all zoned R4.
Your Honor,
Yes.
I think if this isn't relating to specific public testimony, that it is appropriate to close the public hearing.
I'm waiting to find
That's
out
true.
from Wayne
That's
if it is
correct.
or not.
I'll hold off until you close the public
Okay.
testimony.
Okay. Let me offer one more time, any testimony in opposition or general testimony. Commissioner McGraw, would you care to respond to any of the discussion about rezone versus maintaining the existing zoning with the special use permit? Would you like to comment as a sort of rebuttal, if you will?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, not a rebuttal at all. I just, like I say, our overall goal here is try to do the right thing and to long-term planning. We have no, as Mr. Bill Belknap mentioned, we have no plans for the lot. We just tried to clean it up, and we're trying to get a zone to fit what the city wants us to just trying to clean the whole thing up is what our whole intention here is to do. So, commissioners come and commissioners go. The current commissioners there have no plans for that at all. Like I say, a couple trailers there, and once in a great while during jury selection duty, we might put a few cars in there. We just got done putting all new sidewalks around that area. Thank you, by the way, to the city for helping us with that. And we lost the use of the upper parking lot for, I think it was 8 days, so we moved we had a couple of the employees parked down there for a week or so while we were doing that. Other than that lot will sit completely empty. And we have no plans for it at all. So by getting it rezoned to general business, we're just trying to clean the whole thing up and make it fit more into what's going on around there. So,
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your input. With that, I'll close the public hearing and open it up to the council for its discussion. How would you like to proceed? Wayne?
Okay, now I ask my question of Mike. Mike, I was saying that all this area is all zoned R4. Do you know, any idea, maybe Bill, when was this changed to R4? Because obviously this is almost all single-family residences through here with maybe some associated apartments, I don't know, but certainly not high density. So do we know how long this has been R4?
I couldn't tell you exactly. It's in the core area of the city from Hayes to the west that beginning even in the 40s was all zoned residential that allowed everything from single family to two family to multifamily. This probably would have obtained the R4 designation in 91, which was the last substantial update to the zoning code that created the new districts. But I suspect it had a multifamily designation long before that. I don't know if Mike has any more specific information, but I would hazard a guess it has been, multifamily uses have been allowed there for many years.
Well, it just seems, generally when we try to step it down, we go, as down here we have R3, and we go right from R4 directly down to R2, which is single-family residence for a multifamily high density. So it just seems a little bit, I just had those questions, so that's good. Thank you.
I think if you look at the zoning, probably all the way to Hayes was just residential and allowed any type of residential, and then the city downzone properties heading to the west at some point in time from Hayes. And ultimately, I guess R2 ended up on Howard and Logan for the R3 district.
Okay, Sue?
Well, I just want to point out that in 2003, that was when the city was discussing the use of schools downtown and those kinds of universities, those kinds of things. And at that point, that was when the 1912 building, the Presbyterian Church, the county courthouse, and the adjacent parking lot all got zoned general business. But at that time, as you read in the heard about in the development agreement, there were, it could be general business, but it couldn't be everything that was in general business. It was restricted. And so those restrictions also apply to this piece of property. And so as you heard, setbacks of any development can't be, must be the same setbacks as if it were R4. The height restrictions would be as if it were R4. So I think when they did the original general business rezone, they were also thinking of protecting the neighbors, because I remember when that first parking lot went in, there was concern about building right up to the edge and putting a 40-foot building right behind someone's residential lot. So I think with the conditions and the development agreements, I think the creep of other general business uses into that neighborhood conservation has been protected.